So about a decade ago I bought this book, Shots from the Hip by Johnny Stiletto, an alias, and it had a little bit of an impact on me really, and just having a flick through now, having uncovered this book again, I thought I'd have another go at taking shots from the hip, and just as a bit of a challenge, something to do really. There's a little article about this book on a BBC Archive website, and I'll drop the link in the description. Interesting, still available around second-hand and the like. I think it's a book worth having, because not only is it a different way of shooting if you're not used to candid photography, but also the author runs through an explanation and he's thinking behind the shots. It's just interesting really. So I thought I'd have a try out with a couple of cameras to see what I thought was best for shooting from the hip. Before I did that, I watched a video online on YouTube, channel Walk Like Alice, Jeff Askoff, and he goes through some specific settings he uses for shooting from the hip, and I thought, okay, I'll give his settings a try as well. So his settings effectively are setting your camera to f8, a 500th of a second, and manual focus, and that's pretty much it really. So the two cameras I picked to try this out on were the Leica Q2, because it's easy to set up, easy to use. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, on the lens here, you've got the aperture rings, you can set the f8, you can set the focus using the scale, you set the hyperfocal distance, and of course, you can set the shutter speed on the dial, and auto ISO works nicely with the Leica. So that's all you have to do with that. I also thought I'd try it out with the Ricoh GR, which is a favourite with street photographers, and that's not quite so easy to set up, because initially I thought I'd use manual mode, but the thing about manual mode is auto ISO doesn't work, auto ISO doesn't work in manual mode. And you can get around that obviously by setting it to a specific value, but I thought that in a town setting, which is what I was anticipating, there's going to be deep shadows, there's going to be bright highlights, it's going to be very variable, so I really wanted to try and use the auto ISO. So what you can do on the Ricoh is use the TAV mode, which lets you set the shutter speed and the aperture, and it works with auto ISO. The other really nice little feature about the Ricoh is that you can set snap focus, and you can set a snap focus distance to anything you choose, be that, I think I picked 2.5 meters. So if you're setting the focal distance at 2.5 meters and you're using f8, you've got a pretty extensive depth of field. So that covers everything from about 1 meter in front of you, or 1.5 meters in front of you, up to infinity pretty much. So that can work quite well, I think. So I decided, because we were away on a short trip, I'd go into Shrewsbury for the day and see how I got on. It didn't all go to plan. I started out using the Ricoh, and the way I used it was I was trying to kind of hold it kind of like, I'll show you, kind of like, I was trying to hold it kind of like this, and using it like this, wandering around like that. However, I must have nudged something, because my exposures went completely haywire after a very short time. So that was a little bit annoying, but not a disaster. I did manage to rescue kind of one of the shots. Some of them, the ones before the disaster, were fine, but I must have nudged something. It is a small camera, easy to nudge stuff. Rescued one shot in dark table, which was okay, and some of the other shots were okay as well. So I think if I'm going to try and use it landscape, then probably need a proper strap rather than just a hand strap like that, because really it probably works better like that with just a wrist strap. However, lesson. So also using this beast, the Leica, it's bigger obviously, but I was able to put it over my shoulder, and you can quite easily just kind of use it like this. It's that's fine. It hangs nicely, and you can have your thumb on the shutter button. Of course, both these cameras are silent, so that worked really well, I think, and I got some nice images. The only slight issue with the Leica was, I use manual focus with this camera all the time anyway, but it is very easy to accidentally shift the focus while you're using it. But small price. So some of the shots I think are quite interesting, particularly the ones where people are interacting with one another as they're walking around, or they're doing something interesting, or something where you don't know what they're up to, and also where they're looking directly at the camera is quite interesting, I think. So on the whole, I think it was a worthwhile experiment. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah, it was good. Interesting little challenge. There were a couple of other cameras that I thought would be quite good for this. One was the Lumix LX100. You can set that one up manually quite easily as well, and Auto ISO works in manual for that as well. And also Fuji X100 series are probably pretty good for this, because again, very quiet, and the only thing about the Fuji is that the lens is 35mm equivalent rather than 28mm equivalent, which is the Ricoh's 28mm equivalent. Of course, the Leica is 28mm, and the LX100, if you use it at its closest focal distance, then closest zoom distance, its widest is 24mm equivalent field of view. So yeah, hope you enjoyed those images as we ran through, and you might see some more shots from the hip.